Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and I am back with It's All About the Mouse. Today we are going to be using this popcorn bucket as an inspiration, and I decided to pull Tinkerbell from it. I'm going to be using the KellyBell Designs She's Tink bundle for my accent pieces, but I'm also mainly going to be using Doodlebug Petite Prints. The first thing that I did was print out the two ephemera pieces that I'm going to be using so that I can make sure that I match it up with the colors from Doodlebug Petite Prints. I'm going to be using a sketch from Scrapbook and Cards today from May of 2024, and this is an Allison Davis sketch where she focuses on 6x6. Basically, the sketch calls for taking 1.5-inch squares and cutting them into triangles. I first matched up any of the scraps that I could from my Doodlebug Petite Prints. Of course, I had to pull out Swimming Pool because that's my favorite, and it definitely matches the KellyBell Design Creations. I then pulled out Grasshopper and Bumblebee because those definitely match the Tinkerbell colors in the title, as well as the Lilac and Bonbon. Recently, Nicole did a layout very similar to this, and I will post a link to it here. On her video, you'll notice that she used her paper trimmer. And as we were talking, she told me that if I tried to do this layout, which I had told her I was wanting to do the layout, that I should try to do it with my silhouette. I just created a square in the silhouette. I used the knife tool to slice it in the center so that it makes triangles. I cut out 3 squares, so I have a total of 6 triangles. And I plan to use the front and back, so it gives me 3 patterns of each one of the papers that I used. And I just repeated this over and over again. I ended up with actually 40 triangles. So as I am getting all of the triangles cut out, I do want to encourage you guys to check out all of the links below and see how everyone interpreted this sketch. Because it's a popcorn bucket, you could definitely do something with Peter Pan or Tinkerbell or something with popcorn. So I am interested to see exactly what everyone does with this inspiration. Once I got all of the triangles cut out, I then cut off the edges so that I could put my scraps back in my containers. I then moved all of the triangles off to the side, and the sketch says that the tips of the triangles are about 3/4 of an inch from all 4 sides. So I tried to measure that out. And then this is really just a puzzle game. I have 5 colors that I'm using and several patterns. So I was really just trying to make sure that I didn't have any colors touching as well as any of the patterns touching. And I really tried to make sure that the patterns and the colors were spread out apart enough that it wasn't just that it wasn't touching, but that it wasn't close to each other either. Nicole suggested using the washi tape as a guide, and I thought that that was a great idea. So I decided to add the washi tape around the 4 sides so that I could make sure that my spacing was accurate. At this point, I also had pulled out my iPad and I didn't realize that it was in frame. You guys know that I'm currently watching Grey's Anatomy. I'm on about season 8. It was getting really good and I was focusing a lot on my layout, and my TV is above me and I wanted to see exactly what was going on in the show. So I put my iPad in front of me so that I could watch while I was putting all of these tiny triangles down. And I will tell you that it was not easy. Even with the washi tape, and I was using my T-square ruler, I did not get these triangles straight. I ended up going down the bottom of the triangles and then going up the triangles to the left. And then when I got to the top row, they weren't straight. So I did go off camera because I was very frustrated at that point. I knew that I was going to have that cluster in the center with my photos and my 2 embellishments, so I did not put any triangles there. I tested out both of the photos and the embellishment pieces just to make sure that I had enough triangles covering everything up. And I did move a few of the triangles around to make sure that I had everything in place. I also left 3 of the triangles blank, and I wanted to do some stitching in that one as well. And of course, Allison had done that in her layout, and so I was just copying that technique, and I love the way that it came out. So here is where I made a huge mistake. When I went to pull the washi up, you can see, yep, right there, the layout came up with it. I was so frustrated because at this point, my triangles are down and it's not coming up. And so I was just like, I cannot worry about that at this current moment, because if I do, I would throw the entire layout away. So I'm just going to keep going and I will figure it out later. I pulled out this ruler that Allison Davis has actually recommended in her videos before. And what I decided to do was, there are tiny little notches. I use that as a guide to draw my lines. And I went from edge to edge on the pattern paper or in the white cardstock for the ones that I didn't put pattern paper down. And wherever it connected, that's where I started my triangles. I then poked a hole in the 3 points of the triangle, then poked a hole in the center of the points, and then if needed, poked a hole in the center of the center points. Hopefully that makes sense. As I was doing the stitching, I thought maybe I can just cut out the entire piece as it is and then adhere it onto another piece of white cardstock. And honestly, I was going to do it without you guys even knowing. I thought, I'll just cut it out and I'll glue it onto another piece of paper and no one's going to know. But when I laid it down on the white cardstock, there was dimension to it, because as you can see, there is a lot of stitching on the back of this. So I had already cut it out with my X-Acto knife and my scissors. You can see all of the scraps over there to the left. And at that point, I realized I had to come back on camera so that I could show you guys exactly what I was doing. And even though I would not recommend this in any way, I actually like the way that it comes out, because it does have that dimension. So it was almost like I used pop dots on it, but it was only because of the threads on the back of the layout. So I did use my ATG as well as some liquid adhesive to make sure that the piece was secure. I then added my thread boxes on top of it just to add some weight, as well as using my brayer to make sure that it was down. I then left it overnight because I wanted to make sure that that glue dried completely. The next day I came back and I decided that I was going to back my 2 photos. These photos are of myself with Tinkerbell when she was at Magic Kingdom. I am so glad that I have these photos, because Tinkerbell is no longer a meet and greet at Magic Kingdom, and I'm not sure if she will be coming back. Her meet and greet was so beautiful. You can see it in the photos there. She had big flowers and it looked like we were miniaturized, because obviously she's really tiny, so everything was really large. The embellishment pieces that I pulled from KellyBell Designs did not have purple in it or brown. I pulled those mainly from the photos. And I like the contrast of pulling from the photos as well as the embellishment pieces. Because there is so much going on in the background, these are really the only 2 embellishment pieces that I have. The title piece that says Tinkerbell, and then down at the bottom are page starters from KellyBell Design, and it's basically a really large cluster that she's already created for you, and you just have to print it out and attach it to your layout. So with that and the stitching and the piece that I'm going to do in here just in a moment, that was really all I needed for my layout. I did use fun foam on both of the title of Tinkerbell as well as the page starter. So let me know in the comments below, did you guys get a chance to see Tinkerbell at Magic Kingdom before her meet and greet went away? Hopefully you did, because it really is a magical meet and greet. Allison's layout has a bunch of hearts in the triangles that does not have stitching. So basically her triangles either had a stitching or it had a heart, and the heart was in the same pattern as the triangle. At first I thought I would do hearts, but then I realized that I have these really tiny Mickey heads. I knew that I had to add the Mickey heads because it's almost as if they are hidden Mickeys. There are some where the pattern meets exactly, and it's almost very difficult to see the Mickey heads. And then there's some where I moved the pattern where the grid was going one way and I did the Mickey head in another way, so that it made it very obvious that the Mickey head was there. And I will tell you that I love the way that it came out. I first started out with just some of the extra triangles that I had cut out and did not end up using. I did stack the Mickey heads too high, so I cut them out twice with the white cardstock, and then added the pattern paper on top. So I was using up all of the tiny little scraps that I could. I do most of it off camera, but I wanted to show you exactly what I was doing. Once I got several of the Mickey heads cut out, I added it to the triangles that I was going to use. I'm using my tweezers to make sure that I am laying it down exactly where I want them, because like I said, there are some that are exactly the same placement as if they were a part of the paper, especially like the green stripe. And then I go off camera to put on the rest of the Mickeys. There was a couple of triangles that I wasn't sure I was going to add because they were tucked behind the photos or the embellishment pieces. But in the end, I decided that I really did need Mickey heads on every triangle that did not have stitching, and it had a significant amount of the triangle showing. I even went as far to add a Mickey head to overlap the photo of Tinkerbell. So I added the green polka dotted one at the bottom and then added the Mickey stripe head over the photo. And here I'm showing you all of the Mickey heads that I have added. And then that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. This was a one-page layout, which is not normal for me, but in my Disney album, I do allow myself to do these one-page layouts because I have so many photos from the different days that having the one pages sometimes is all that I need. I will add another one-page layout to this that coordinates with it, probably by using the same type of Doodlebug paper. Make sure you check out all the links below to see how everyone else interpreted this popcorn bucket. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.